This episode is Crime in Our Family Tree, Episode 2. We'll be looking at the family of my grandmother, Marie Pocahontas Christopher Miller. We know that her parents were Henry T. Miller and Laura Christopher, and Henry T. Miller's parents were Anderson P. Miller and Theodora Bland. We have looked at the family of Theodora Bland and seen that it leads to some of the first families in Virginia. But what about her grandfather, Anderson P. Miller? What do we know about him? We know he was a soldier for the Confederacy. He enlisted on May 9, 1861, at Amelia Courthouse. He served in Jeb Stuart's cavalry, the Amelia Dragoons, with his future wife's cousins, Robert Bland and John E. Bland. He was a farmer with a real estate values of $18,000 and personal estate value of over $24,000 according to the 1860 census. But by 1870, after the war, his real estate value was $1,500 with a meager personal wealth. He died in 1881. He had two brothers, Henry T. Miller, Jr., who died at the age of 17 of typhoid in the very first year of the war. His second brother was George W. Miller, who married his widow after he died in 1881. He had three sisters, Martha, Sarah, and Elizabeth Miller. Little is known about his sisters. We do know that Elizabeth died at the age of 21, the same year her brother Henry T. Miller, Jr. died. Their father was Henry T. Miller, Sr. He was a man of wealth, and he was married to Mary Catherine Jones, whose father was a planter and wealthy landowner in Amelia County. Henry T.'s father, for whom Anderson P. Miller would be named, was a farmer from New Kent, Virginia, who would migrate to Amelia County by 1840. Henry T. would eventually own a plantation on the banks of the Appomattox River on the Chesterfield side county across from Amelia. And he would be the victim of what would become known as one of the most famous murders in Chesterfield County history. According to news records, he was shot by his overseer, James Mosley Stratton. It was rumored that the cause was an adulterous affair with Stratton's wife. Stratton shot Miller twice after witnesses had seen Miller enter Stratton's house earlier in the day. Let's look at how the news articles captured this event. The first news article states, "Shooting affray in Chesterfield. We learn that Henry Miller of Chesterfield was shot and dangerously wounded a day or two since. The person who shot him was arrested. Mr. Miller is said to be in critical condition." A few days later, Henry T. Miller's death was announced in the paper this way. "A serious affair occurred on yesterday between the hours of 3 and 5 o'clock in the upper end of Chesterfield County. A gentleman by the name of Henry T. Miller was shot by Mr. Moses Stratton, his overseer, with whom he had a previous difficulty. 2 loads entered his stomach, and he died this evening. I ascertained none of the particulars concerning the unfortunate occurrence. Mr. Stratton is a young married man. He has been arrested and is now in Chesterfield Jail. Amelia Courthouse, August 19th, 1856. It took days to choose a jury. After a 3-week trial, Stratton was sentenced. The case of Moses Stratton, charged with the homicide of Colonel Henry T. Miller in this county in August last, was brought to a termination today, having been given to the jury on yesterday. At that time, they were unable to agree on a verdict. Today, they find the prisoner guilty of justifiable homicide and fix his time of imprisonment at 1 day in the county jail. The jury requested the judge to omit the imprisonment, but he proceeded to sentence Stratton according to their finding in the case. The verdict is considered an acquittal. Stratton's friends are much pleased with the result. October 31st, Chesterfield Courthouse. Court records do not confirm the motive, but the cause of an argument between Stratton and Miller turns out not to have been about an adulterous affair. We learn that the court records and statements heretofore made to the effect that the murder was caused not by improper advances on the deceased towards the wife of the prisoner, but the testimony proves that it originated in a dispute about some roasting ears. Yes, according to information, the overseer killed Miller not because of an adulterous affair, but it turns out that it was an argument between employer and employee over the picking of corn without permission. Uh-oh. That sounds like an offense that runs in the family. Certainly glad it worked out better for Henry T. Miller's descendant, Willard Wayne Jackson, known for picking corn without permission, because apparently picking corn and getting killed over it is justifiable homicide. Until next time.